Yep. So I don't know how many questions we can do.
I don't know. I'm flustered. My work doesn't even make sense.
Are you warm?
I go in the right corner to the left corner.
Okay, I don't see any numbers here, but I can guess. Do we need to do number 4 even though I gave you the hint?
Yes.
There never used to be a hint before, it just used to be finding square roots of 3 plus 4i. And then I gave the hint, and then 2 years ago I had to put in that is, I told you exactly how to do it. Okay, let's do number 4. You know why? The probability that this being on the next quiz is like 0.97. Pretty good, I know. In fact, it just went up to 0.98. Okay, what complex number squared will give you, what is the thing I'm asking you? 3 plus 4i, right? Okay, let me ask you this. Why is 3 the square root of 9? Because when you square this, you get 9, right? So we're trying to find the square roots of 3 plus 4i. So what thing squared will give you that? That's how you do it. Okay, the only thing I'm going to change is this. I'm just going to change that. So what did I tell you to do? Solve this equation. Well, how do you do it? You multiply out the left side. A squared plus 2abi minus b squared is equal to 3 plus 4i. Can you guys at least write that down?
Yes.
Okay, now when you work with complex numbers, you always work with the real and the imaginary part separately. So here, let me give you an easy problem. If c plus di is equal to 5 plus 4i, what is c? C is 5, and what is d? 4. Here, give me my calculator back. Shrunk 2. Okay, so same thing here. What is the real part on the left side of the equation? This and this, because it doesn't have an I in it, right? So a squared minus b squared should equal, what's the real part on the right side of the equation? 3. What's the imaginary part on the left side of the equation? So here, real part equal real part. Imaginary part gotta equal imaginary part. Isn't that just common sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So real part on the left equals real part on the right. Imaginary part on the left equal imaginary part on the right. Solve those equations. Okay, you guys do the algebra. If you can't do the algebra, then come see me. But it's easy, and there's gonna be 2 answers because you're gonna get a quadratic equation. You're gonna get 2 answers. Okay, next one. I can guess. Okay, number 5. Did everybody catch the pattern?
Yes.
Yeah.
I caught the pattern, but I was wondering why can't you go up to 5 and then times it by 20?
Because then that's not the pattern. Because every 5 does, why, does every 5 add up to the same thing? It might. I don't know. We never tried that before.
Oh, okay.
You guys know what I'm talking about? Okay, let's do number 5. Okay, if you simplify each term, you're going to get I minus 2 minus 3i plus 4, correct? Okay, let's do the next 4. See, you can't really tell the pattern from that. Keep on going. What's the next one going to be? 5i minus 6 minus 7i plus 8. Did I do that correctly? Yes, I'm a teacher. Okay, so now you got to find some kind of pattern because you don't really want to add up 100 things, do you? Mr. Park, I don't want to even add 4 things. Okay, well, what happens when you add these 4? See, you have to find some kind of pattern. That's what you have to do. What happens when you add the first 4? Because you guys know complex numbers goes in 4s, right?
2 plus negative.
2
minus 2i.
Minus 2i. What happens when you add the next 4? 2 minus 2i. Mr. Park, every time I add 4 consecutive ones, it comes out to this. Well, if you had 100 terms, how many groups of 4 will there be? There's 25. So isn't the answer just this times 25? Because there's 25 groups of them. Yeah, that's what you have to find. You gotta find the pattern. Otherwise, you gotta add up 100 things, which I don't think you want to do. Now, number 6. This is to test to see if you guys know how to solve quadratic equations. Can everybody? We better go over B. X to the 4th. Mr. Park, this is not a quadratic equation. Yes, it's not. It's a quartic equation. However, it has quadratic form.
Whoa.
I know Mr. Rubash loves to do these kinds of problems, yeah? See, when this power is double that power, and that's a constant, we say that it has quadratic form. So you can treat it like the quadratic. Now, those of you who took Algebra 2 honors last year, which is almost all of you, did you guys learn U substitution?
Yes.
So, you guys probably learned, Mr. Rubash told me let U equal x squared,
Yeah.
right? What, in other words, whatever that thing is. So then you get U squared minus U minus 6 equals 0. That's a quadratic, right? Okay, but come on, we have matured since then. So, yeah, you can make a U substitution, but once you notice the quadratic form, no need to make U substitution. Just do this. Just factor it like a quadratic. So instead of U and U, you go x squared and x squared, 3 and 2 minus plus. So that means x squared is equal to 3 or negative 2. Now can I write down the 4 solutions?
Yes.
If x squared is equal to 3, x equals plus or minus root 3. If x squared equals negative 2, then x is plus or minus I root 2, because the square root of negative 1 is I. How come I get 4 answers? Because you got to the 4th power. In fact, what theorem did we learn last year that says if you have a polynomial of degree 4, there will be 4 solutions? The fundamental theorem of?
Polynomial.
I heard it. I heard something here.
I said I don't know. Sorry.
The fundamental theorem of algebra.
Oh.
And by the way, does everybody know why there's a plus or minus here? Okay, I don't believe you guys here. Every single year, I've been teaching this class, this is my 33rd year teaching this class. Every single year, students don't know where that plus or minus came from. So we're gonna go over it now so that everybody understands the correct way. Okay, if you get x squared equal 9, we already know the answer is gonna be x equal plus or minus 3, right? Okay, but why? Okay, square root both sides. What is the square root of x squared? No.
Absolute value of x.
Thank you. Absolute value of x. Your teacher should have drilled that into you.
Propsy.
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 What is the square root of 9? It's 3. So the absolute value of what number will give you 3? Plus or minus 3. This plus or minus comes from the absolute value. But you know when teachers do problems on the board, they skip this step, right? They just go square root both sides and the teacher writes this down. And then that's why a lot of people think that's x and that's plus or minus 3, but that's 2 mistakes.
Oh.
That plus or minus comes from the absolute value. So what is the lesson we just learned today? The square root of x squared is equal to the absolute value of x. I'm pretty sure that's written in your book last year, but of course, did you read the book?
No.
That's what I thought. Just kidding. Okay. Now, what about equations with, we got like 6 more minutes. What about these equations with radicals? Okay, let me just ask you this. Problem C. How many of you squared both sides? That's it?
Problem what?
Problem 6C. How many people squared both sides? Okay, fine. But what did we learn last year? If you square both sides, what do you have to do?
Check.
You better check your answer because you might have extraneous solutions, right? Just like this. Is negative 4 equal to 4?
No.
No, but when you square both sides, you get 16 equals 16. So that's why whenever you square both sides, you gotta check your answer. So that's like an extra step. So is there another way I could have done this problem so I don't have to square both sides? No, you can do whatever you want. And the answer is yes. Make one side 0. And then look, hey, that has quadratic form. Because this power is double that power, right? So you factor it like a quadratic. Root x and root x. 4 and 2 minus plus. That means the square root of x got to equal 4 or negative 2, but that's impossible. You cannot square root a number and get a negative, right? Remember, the square root of 9 is 3. Not negative 3, it's just 3. So, the square root of what number will give you 4?
2.
What?
4. 16.
2.
16.
I thought the square root of 2 was 1.414, but whatever. It's 16. And then I don't, you know why I don't have to check my answer? Because I didn't square both sides. Ha! Okay, whatever, but you can do whatever you want, but you just gotta remember, so like when you do problem 6D and 10, when you square both sides, you gotta check your answers. So do you see the difference between 6D and number 10? What happens when you have more than one radical? Like, how do you do 6D when you have two radicals? You put the two radicals on opposite sides and you square both sides, right? What about number 10? What happens when you have three radicals? You put 2 on one side and 1 on the other and you square both sides. You gotta do a lot of algebra. Now, can you see the progression? What's gonna happen on the test? You're gonna have 4 radicals. So what do you think you're gonna do? 3 and 1 or 2 and 2? That's right. Okay, I heard a question here. Question.
Can you like solve 4 all the way through? Like how do you get to like
Number
the
4?
complex number from like those two equations?
Okay, okay, wait, what time is it? I'm just gonna do it quick. Solve for one of the letters here. B equal 2 over A, is that correct?
Yeah.
Take that, plug it in here. A squared minus 4 over A squared is equal to 3. Get rid of the fraction. A to the 4th minus 4 equal 3A squared. Make one side 0. Change it. Kikaida. Factor like a quadratic. A squared. A squared. 4 and 1 minus plus. A squared is equal to 4 or negative 1. No can. So A is equal to plus or minus 2. And then once you get plus or minus 2, you're supposed to do this. Everybody here took algebra 1. And once you get A, plug it back into this one to get B. And then that's how you get your 2 answers. Yep. I'm just doing algebra and I'm getting a standing ovation. Well, it wasn't really standing. Okay, and then we got 3 minutes. So the number 9, did everybody use the math team secret?
Yes.
You guys even remember the math? Okay, now number 8, did everybody can use your graphic calculator?
Yes.
Okay, you gotta read that example. There's an example in the notes that tells you how to do it. I'm gonna tell you right now, that problem is on the next quiz. Probability 1. Problem 8B. You guys know what that means? Probability 1?
It's gonna be
100%.
Okay, well, can't get anything by you guys.
100%.
I don't know how to do it.
Huh? You don't know how to do it? Do you guys understand the premise? Okay, let's just go through that problem. See, 7 and 8B is the same problem except different. Ax squared plus x minus 6 can be factored. So if you can factor this thing, doesn't that mean this equation has rational roots?
Yes.
Right? Remember we talked about this yesterday.
Yes.
Okay, and what will tell you that you have rational roots? The discriminant has to be a perfect square. I think I gave you a hint on number 7. So what is the discriminant in this problem? B squared minus 4AC gotta be a perfect square. So 24A plus 1 is equal to a perfect square. So to do part A, it's easy. Find the 5 smallest values of A so that you get a perfect square. Okay, so we tried the first number. What if A is 1? Is that a perfect square?
Yes.
Yeah, 25 is a perfect square. What about 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, 49. What about 3?
No.
No, 73 is not a perfect square. You just guess and check until you get 5, right? Okay, but now you get to use your calculator. Find the 3 smallest values bigger than 100. So you take out your calculator. What happens when I plug in 101 there? Is that a perfect square? How do you tell with your calculator? What do you mean you do
We
it?
press numb.
101 times 24.
Okay, so on your calculator you go 24 times 101 plus 1. How do you check if it's a perfect
Square root it.
Square root.
You square root it, and if it comes out to a whole number, then that was a perfect square, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, then you plug in 102 times 24 plus 1. Square root it. Is that a whole number?
Probably not.
No, it's not. Look at the answers on the bottom. And then you 103, 104, 105, 106. Somebody tell me quickly, what's the answer on the bottom? So, Mr. Park, I gotta keep going to get to 117? There's gotta be a better way. Is there a way to tell your calculator, just plug in 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, and just show me the results?
No.
Yes, in a table. So what you need, okay, we don't have time, you need to look at, the example is exactly the same with different numbers. What you're gonna do is tell your calculator to make a table like this. See, you get the number, and you're gonna square root 24x plus 1. Right, that's this thing right here. And you tell your calculator start at 101. So you're gonna tell your calculator, plug in 101 into this. You look if it's a whole number. And then, see, your calculator can make this table just like that from the tree. And so what you do is, you keep scrolling down. You just hold the scroll down button until you see a whole number. And you know when the first time that's gonna occur? At 117. And then you press the down arrow and you just keep on looking until you see a whole number. Yes, your calculator can do that. It makes a table. That's what you're doing. Read the directions. And if you still can't figure it out, then come see me. It's all in the directions. Okay, we gotta move on. We only got 9 minutes left. We're in trouble.
Oh no.
See what happens when you take 28 minutes for a 20-minute quiz? That's okay. It's the first quiz. I'll give you extra time. I'll give you 10 free points.
Yay!
Okay, today we start learning about quadratic functions, which are parabolas. Okay, so quick review. What's the fastest way to graph a parabola? Okay, let me give you a problem. Y equal negative 2x, I'm trying to concentrate, minus 8x minus 5. Yeah, okay. Graph this parabola. What's the most important point on the parabola? The
Vertex.
The origin. No, the vertex. Now, there are two ways to find the vertex. One is to put this into vertex form, right? Remember the vertex form? There are two forms of a parabola. This one, I don't know what form you call that.
General.
No, general means make one side.
Standard.
Standard maybe. This is called vertex form because HK is the vertex, right?
Oh.
So you can do this, and how do you get it into that form? You gotta complete the square, right?
Okay.
Okay, let me show you how to complete the square. Okay, so you look at the first two terms. What number can I factor out? Whatever the coefficient is there,
-2.
that's what you factor out. So you got that, then you leave a space, do this. Then you ask yourself, what do I have to add right there to make a perfect square?
4.
Remember? You take half of that number and square it.
4.
4. But what did you actually add? Negative 2 times 4. You actually added negative 8, so you gotta add 8 there to balance it out, right?
Yes.
What's balancing? And so you got negative 2x minus 2 squared plus 3. There when you look at it, the vertex is 2 comma 3, just by looking at that. That's why it's called vertex form. But, Mr. Park, I don't like completing the square. So your teacher last year told you something. When it's written in this form, like this, standard form, if you want to call it, your teacher taught you that the vertex is always located at
Negative
negative b over 2a. Does that sound familiar? That's very important in this chapter and in subsequent chapters. So this is A, B, and C. So what is negative b over 2a? What is negative 8 over negative 4? 2. So we know the x-coordinate of the vertex is 2. How do I get the y-coordinate? You plug it back in. So if I plug it back in, you got negative 8 plus 16 minus 5, which is 3. Isn't that a lot faster than completing the square?
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't care how you do it, just do it. I'm just telling you, negative b over 2a is the best. That should be your best friend in this chapter. Okay, now your goal is to graph it. So I plot the point 2, comma 3. Now, let me tell you something about graphing in pre-cal honors and calculus. Now, when you graphed last year, did your teacher make you label this like 1, 2, 3, all the hash marks? You gotta label it?
Yes.
That's baby food. We're not doing that. In this class, if you put hash marks and with nothing there, then I assume each one is 1. Okay, so if you do that, you don't have to label anything because I assume it to be 1. However, if you change the scaling like you do this, what does that mean? That means on the y-axis, each hash mark is 4. Okay? So if you don't put anything, I assume each hash mark is 1, so you don't have to label. Okay, so 2, 3, and which way does the parabola open? Down, because the leading coefficient negative. So just do this, yeah. Hang. Just go, hang.
No.
No, that would be like -4. You gotta be more accurate. We need another point somewhere. What's the next best point to look for?
X-intercept.
The y-intercept. Because look at this thing. What's the y-intercept? How do you find the y-intercept of any graph?
Let x equal
Okay, you substitute 0 for x, you get negative. This number is the y-intercept, because that's what happens when you plug in 0 for x. So the y-intercept is -5, like that. But then a parabola has symmetry. So here's the vertex. If I go 2 this way and that much down, that means if I go 2 that way, don't I have to go that much down?
Yes.
Now you can just go. That's the fast way to graph a parabola. Okay, this is the last thing, this is all we have time for today. So. The next thing is, what if I give you a graph? Can you write the equation of the parabola?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Okay, suppose we have a parabola that looks like this. Okay, it doesn't look like a parabola. Okay, here's the vertex. Give me some numbers. -5, 3, and here is a point. Let's make up a point right here. Here's the y-intercept. 0, 1. Okay. Write the equation of this parabola.
Oh, y.
So now you gotta ask yourself, well, these are the two forms of the parabola. Which one should I use?
The second one.
Now, if you know the vertex, you should use vertex form. Do we know the vertex?
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, all of tonight's homework problems, I think you're gonna know the vertex. So, use the vertex form. So, y equals a. Here's the vertex, so what do I write?
X plus
X
5.
plus 5 squared plus 3. The only thing I don't know is a. Well, Mr. Park, I see it opening down, so gotta be negative. Oh, -4, that's not -4. Well, at least you know it's negative, otherwise it would be -6 on the test, so. What do you do?
Plug in the point.
Yeah, you can't, how do you know it's -1? How do you know it's not like -1/4 or -3?
Because it opens down.
Yeah, so it's gotta be negative, right? Okay, but what negative number is it? You plug in a point that you know, that's why I gave you this point. What do you think I'm gonna do with it? I'm gonna plug in 0 for x and 1 for y. Let's do it. 1 equal a times 25 plus 3. 25a is equal to -2. A equal -2 over 25. Who's gonna guess that, right? So therefore, the equation of the parabola is y equal -2 over 25, x plus 5 squared plus 3. Box that, that's the answer. Can I leave my answer like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Unless
Okay.
you say.
Okay, if I don't say what form to leave it in, you can leave it in any form you want. Like some of you want to multiply it out and distribute the -2 over 25.
Oh.
Go ahead, make my day. But then you better multiply, but then you gotta add that times 25, then you gotta add the 3 to it. That's extra work. Why do you wanna do that? Alright, the bell's gonna ring. Try your best on this homework.
Well,
One problem, I knew it was wrong because my answer
Hey, we
was
actually-
you know the rest are correct.
good numbers. Well, I mean, I don't know. But